Some shows lean left, some lean right, but we lean local and business. This is North Georgia Business Radio X with Bo Henderson. For the next hour, we will celebrate the businesses in our area and the people that run them. Find us on Facebook at North Georgia Business Radio X and online at northgeorgiabusinessradiox.com. Now, here's Bo Henderson.
One of the things we talk about a lot, especially in this world, 2020, in being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, is stress. And I've seen a lot of extra stress, and we've heard that from our guests too, that this COVID world has brought to business.
Yes, and one of the things I think that helps so much in relieving stress is getting the right information. And I noticed, Bo, that in addition to having developed your speaking presentation skills, you have become a nationally known, even internationally known writer. Forbes and Entrepreneur, that's pretty good company you're in there.
Well, I had some good training early on by people like Dr. Bill Lampton. Mm-hmm. Now, so yeah, I think the article you're referencing that came out this week in Entrepreneur, it was talking about financial stress and a couple things we can do to avoid it.
And somebody who maybe moves from the corporate scene to become an entrepreneur, maybe this is the first time they've really had to face the fact that they are totally responsible for their own economic future.
And I think the first step we really talked about here and we get to is take some time. I noticed we were able to slow down in some areas this year and work on some things that we
were forced to.
Right, we were forced to, but it also created opportunities to work on some areas of our business that we just didn't have time to in the past because we were so busy. And one of those that I think people can do to reduce stress overall is pay attention to the finances. Learn the finances. Make sure you're continually improving your relationship with money, because long term, that's going to have the biggest impact on your business and can alleviate a lot of stress.
Yes, and I liked what you said in the article, that we cannot just focus on the here and now. And the point you made is that people become entrepreneurs because they love what they do. And that's great, and it's very important. At the same time, you need to be very practical and not just love what you do and do that all day long, but look ahead to tomorrow, next year, and beyond financially.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest mistakes, too, we see is if we just so focused on this year and what we can accomplish this year, we also got to make sure we're looking at how the decisions this year pan out and play out 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road. So it's thinking with a long-term point of view.
It's interesting, of course, in many job interviews, sometimes a person is asked, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? What do you want to be doing 5 years from now? We do need to look ahead.
Well, if you don't know where you're going, you might just end up somewhere you didn't intend to go or you don't really like. And that's kind of what we want to avoid there. But enough about that article. I just wanted to talk through that a minute because that was kind of a fun piece to see them put that out there at Entrepreneur. But let's
Congratulations.
Thank you, Bill. Let's talk about our guests today. I'm really excited about these guys. Now, they're really accomplishing something out there in the research and the work they're doing. Would you like to bring them in?
Yes, I'll be glad to. And guess what? I think I can pronounce it. They deal with pharmacogenetics. How about that?
I think you got it.
That's a mouthful, isn't
it?
Very happy to have Brett Grauss and Robbie Rupard with us today. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
So this is the dynamic duo. This is the team at Pro-GeneX.
Yes. That's Big Red and Bubba.
Oh, I like it. That's the scientific names, right? That's the professional names. Yeah. Well, guys, tell us a little bit just about before we jump into some specifics, just how did you get here? What in the world brought you guys to doing what you're doing with the business you're doing today? Because I just don't see you started off in high school saying this is what I want to do in my life. It sounds probably some opportunities came up. What's the story?
Well, I've done a bunch of different types of businesses. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I like starting companies. Find something you're passionate about and try to become a subject matter expert and build something on it. And I had been in the healthcare business for 5 or 6 years in a medical device firm. We were looking for I was looking for an opportunity to do something new and ran across the science of pharmacogenetics, which is the science of how your body responds to medications. And we knew that medication problems occurred all the time. It's one of the highest causes of death in the United States today. So the science of pharmacogenetics allows you to look specifically at the individual's genetic makeup and determine which medications would work really good for them and which ones might cause harm, which ones might fail. And so societally, there was a huge opportunity to provide benefit if you could find a systemic way to deploy this type of technology. At the time that I got into it, there was a lot of people around that were just kind of selling it. They were peddlers, and I knew that science would never see its real promise to be displayed properly unless you could find a systemic way to do that. And so we got into the long-term care space with a vertical channel partner, and it was an exciting time because we just had an idea, and yet this large pharmacy company said, "Look, the way you guys are talking about doing this makes sense. You're not a peddler. You're a clinical decision support tool that our clients can use." And so that's how I found my way into it. And then I got into it thinking I might spend a year, and then a year turned 2, and then 3, and now we're on year 6. And I got lucky. Brett and I had been friends and golfing buddies, and Brett had been with a large pharmaceuticals distribution company, and so he understood the challenges of the industry. And one day after a round of golf, I was kind of showing him what we did and how our mobile app worked and how we used the data, and Brett got excited and off to the races.
Yeah, so I think it was about 10,000 feet at Squaw Valley on Siberia on a ski run, early March of 2018, and had an epiphany. It said, this is something that I really want to do. And I called Robbie, and I said, I'm not high from the altitude. I've been thinking about this, and I'm going to leave my company, and I'm going to go into business with you and help you realize this dream. And very quickly, we began a whiteboarding session over several cigars and a few bottles of wine.
We did.
In a few days. It was a few days.
That's a lot of wine.
And
there's a lot of cigars.
There's a lot of cigars. We actually still have those.
Thought you guys were in the health business.
We actually still have those whiteboards.
We're business guys
in our office. Yeah, we are. Well, I have an engineering background, and I had a lobotomy and moved into sales and marketing. So that's my engineering joke. Anyways, we decided that we were onto something real big with pharmacogenetic testing. The portal that had been developed, and made the decision that we really had to have a laboratory to take it full circle. We needed to control our own destiny because really nothing happens in this business until somebody is tested. And being at the mercy of a reference laboratory or someone else where they weren't running product on your timetable and you weren't maximizing the economic value of the tests 100% was something that we changed. So we came to Gainesville, here into the business incubator at Brunel University, built a beautiful lab, and been there for almost 2 years now. So we are now not only a clinical decision support company, but we're also a CLIA certified, Georgia licensed laboratory.
We're talking to Robbie Rupert here with Brett Grauss at Pro-GeneX. I'm Bo Henderson here with Dr. Bill Lampton on North Georgia Business RadioX. And guys, as you're explaining this, I want to understand a little more about the relationship and partner or coordination with the long-term care industry.
So that was important to me at the time. I had gone out and made some initial marketing forays trying to get into a health system. And at the time, we approached the Gwinnett Health System folks down there. And what I came away from all those meetings was there was not enough good data to support the advancement by a health system of the use of pharmacogenetic testing. And so I knew I needed data. And the best place to get data was in long-term care. We had lots of people. They've got plenty of comorbidities, lots of different sicknesses. They take lots of medications. And something called polypharmacy is a real problem with them. And it's a snowball effect. You take one medication and it's causing the side effects. So you take another one for that. And so we decided that the best place to develop data and develop, really a good experience in providing clinical decision support around this test data was the long-term care industry. And so I'd like to say that I was really, really smart and went to see PharMerica and said, hey, you guys. But actually, it didn't work like that. It was complete luck. I had a friend who was constantly telling me, you need to meet this person, you need to meet that person. And they set me up a breakfast meeting to meet one of the local PharMerica senior folks. And I actually stood them up. I forgot about it and was taking my daughter to school. And I get a phone call saying, where are you? And I'm like, oh, my God. And so they forgave me for that because we had a good message. And
so what is PharMerica?
So PharMerica is the second largest long-term care pharmacy provider. They're considered what's called a closed-door pharmacy. So they manage all the prescribing and all of the legal work around prescription medications in long-term care facilities. And so they were a perfect partner because it was a very competitive industry. They needed a differentiator. We provided, a differentiating factor for them when they're making sales, and also helped improve the outcomes and reduce cost of care in their client facilities. And so they took us on. We did a 1-year pilot that turned into a 2-year pilot, and then they were purchased by Walgreens and KKR. About 1.5 years ago, and Brett had a relationship with some of the folks at Walgreens, and so everything happens really slow in healthcare, but the long-term care space was just the perfect place for us to be, and it provided us now a jumping off point for health system deployments because of that experience, and it gave us some credibility.
When we come back, we're going to take a break, guys, but I want to talk some about application. So the listeners out there, okay, I see how this is being applied and where they're going with this. And also, I'd love to hear, too, how COVID-19's impacted what you guys are doing. I'm Bo Henderson here with Bill Lampton. We're talking to the guys at Pro-GeneX. We'll be right back with more right here on North Georgia Business Radio X.
Listening to North Georgia Business Radio X at WDUN. Here with Bo Henderson, I'm Bill Lampton, and we're focusing today on pharmacogenetics. And our guests are experts in that topic, Robbie Rupard and Brett Grauss. Bo, take it from there.
Well, guys, so before we went to the break, one of the things I wanted to bring up is just the application. So I get it. And what I really love that you were starting to talk about there, Robbie, was this idea of it's not a rule of thumb. Here you have these things going on, go take these medications. Medications affect different people differently, right? And I can't tell you when I was in mental health years ago how we would see all these medications and what's counteracting what's causing what. So I love the idea that you guys are trying to dig deeper and actually find solutions and customize plans for individuals. But what is the application to this? How does this apply to the person out there maybe listening or beyond?
Well, so you brought up mental health.
Right.
There's a great application there. So the percentage of young people and old people today taking antidepressant medications is huge. And typically, you go in to see the doctor, I'm feeling depressed, they do some diagnosis, and they're going to give them Celexa or Lexapro, pretty much standard medication. It's kind of a standard of care medication, and then they'll adjust it up and down until they feel like that they've got you to a level of therapy, and sometimes that works and sometimes that doesn't. So with medications like that, there are metabolizing enzymes that are produced by your liver that clear that medication out of your body. And about 35% of the people in the United States have anomalies in the metabolizing enzymes that work on Lexapro and Celexa. And in some cases, those enzymes are produced at a really, really high quantity, so it clears out of the body so fast it doesn't give you any therapeutic benefit. And the flip side is if you produce really, really low levels of that, and that's about 4% of the population, then those people, a normal dosing is actually an overdose. And then there are other things related not necessarily to metabolism, but mechanisms of action, what happens with the drug in the body that with antidepressants has to do with serotonin. And so elevated serotonin levels can cause all kinds of problems. And so monkeying around with that without having a really good feel for what they're going to respond best to is actually going to cause more challenges. In fact, in the long-term care space, we see so much of it. If you go back and look at their medication history, they'll be on an antidepressant, and then before long they're on a blood pressure medicine that they didn't have to take before. And the reason is the antidepressant levels are increasing serotonin levels, and it's jacking up the blood pressure. And so that's a side effect of something that they're still trying to adjust to get working right.
It creates a cycle, right? Then you have to start trying to subtract, and then you don't know what's causing what.
That's right.
It can be a nightmare.
That's right.
Well, so I know we've had an interesting year. From a lot of the business we talked to, things were going great up until about the end of February. And then things shifted. So what's it been like for you guys with your research, the work you're doing? Been tough, had opportunities. What have you seen with this COVID-19 2020 we're facing?
You know, the long-term care space was and is still our love, and it's also our core business. And those people starting in the beginning of March were in deep trouble. And they were being shut down by agencies in terms of allowing people in and out. And their focus really became very quickly, making sure we have enough PPE, protective gear, make sure that we can get our people tested.
Survival was what they were after.
Absolutely it was. And we had a large client in Ohio that we'd been working on a pharmacogenetic project with. And one day everything was going wide open, and the next day it was shut down, and it occurred overnight. And it was the massive paradigm shift. And our business hit a wall. I mean, it was just a dead stop. And
we had to furlough our employees fortunately it was only 30 days at the beginning of March, because our business completely stopped and dried up from our pharmacogenetic business. And at that point, Robbie and I looked at each other, and Robbie said, "We're going to get in the COVID testing business." And I looked at him like he had three eyes. I didn't want a COVID virus anywhere near our lab or anywhere near our facility. But as we looked into the science and as we looked into what it would take to run those tests, it turned out that we had the perfect setup in terms of equipment. Our lab director, who's a genetic scientist and a professor at Brunel University, was very able to put together a rapid, high-capacity, high-throughput COVID test. And gosh, within 30 days, we were in the COVID testing business.
Wow.
And it saved our bacon.
Well, how does that feel, guys? I'm just imagining to be so focused on the pharmacogenetics and then have the ability to flex and pivot like that. I mean, that's pretty impressive. 30 days, right, Brett?
Yes.
Well, so from time to time I get to lecture at Northeast Georgia or University of North Georgia, sometimes down at University of Georgia, some other places, in business classes, entrepreneurship institutes, and I talk about pivoting. And some business owners, they'll pivot in a minute. They'll, next thing you know, well, we're over here, we're over there. Brett and I are both hard-headed, so we don't really pivot so much. But the one thing you do is if you're going to pivot, pivot hard and go fast.
You got to be all in.
You got to be all in. You're 100% committed to our pivot. And that's one of the great things about the partnership that Brett and I have. We're different people. We see the world differently. We butt heads every once in a while, but when we decide we're on to something, we're on it, and we're pretty much unstoppable force, the two of us. And so that's made the pivot. You could get a lot more inertia,
right?
Very quickly. And having a great business partner has been one of the greatest blessings for us.
I think the story you just told is a wonderful example for business leaders who are listening today, because the start of your story is one that is practically universal in
right.
businesses, not just in the U.S. It's practically universal. And what do? Do you just stop, as you say, or you just have to become creative? And that's pivot has become the favorite word. And I think I found out that was from basketball, where a basketball player was trapped one place, and so he turned and he or she pivoted. That's what we have to do, and find what's the next move we can make. And you guys have an inspiring story there, Bo.
Well, I think as business owners too, it's the difference between being proactive and reactive. There's a lot of businesses that are going to go under because they just kind of sit back and they're scared and they're waiting for something to happen. You proactively came up with a plan and pursued it, and kudos to that. But when we come back, we're going to have to go to another break, but I want to talk about where you're going next. What's some vision casting for the next year, 3 years, 5 years down the road? I have a feeling you guys would have some fun with that conversation. I'm Bo Henderson here with Dr. Bill Lampton. with Brett and Robbie from Pro-GeneX. We'll be right back with a whole lot more. Now, we talked about how COVID-19 has impacted so many businesses, and we were talking before we went to the break with Robbie and Brett about how they went all in and embraced this and are doing COVID-19 testing. And guys, what I do want to know, but as we move forward, is what do you see moving forward? Is this a long-term deal? Is it going to shift and evolve over time? What do you guys, the plan as you see it today with the COVID-19?
So it depends who you talk to,
right,
and who you listen to in terms of how long the disease is going to remain active in the community, what's coming next. As we were talking during the break, the virus itself doesn't lend itself well to a vaccine. It's a tough bug. And with the start of the fall season and with the flu season, we think that the path for testing is going to be even greater in the fall and in the winter than it was this summer. So, but at some point we feel that COVID testing will be a business line that won't sustain itself. So we're looking at other types of viral testing, other respiratory pathogens that we can run on our equipment for pneumonia, bacterial infections. We're looking at a tuberculosis product right now and expanding our business line so that if and when this COVID pandemic rids itself, we're positioned well so we don't have to make another pivot. And we always have our pharmacogenetics business, and that's actually interest in that is starting to pick up dramatically over the last couple of months, with health systems and large providers really looking for ways to better treat their patients and save money and stay in business, reducing adverse drug events, reducing the chance of readmissions of their patients into the healthcare systems, and reducing medication risk and polypharmacy.
You're listening to North Georgia Business RadioX. I'm Bo Henderson here with Dr. Bill Lampton. We're talking to Brett Grauss and Robbie Rupert from Pro-GeneX, and we're talking about where's COVID going. Got some good ideas, guys, but even broader than that, Pro-GeneX, what's the vision for the overall business model and where you'd like to be going a year from now, 3 years from now? A little vision casting.
Well, we've been very, very fortunate. We got a lot of support locally. Local folks got involved with us. We're doing a good bit of work with Northeast Georgia Health System, a fantastic group of folks over there. And there are opportunities to grow our molecular business with them. And the larger lab companies have largely failed some of these rural markets. The physicians are waiting 2 weeks sometimes to get results. And that was not just COVID related, that was everything. And so we see, first thing, an opportunity to take some of that market and provide, real, I hate to use the term, but down home service. Having a local lab company that'll come pick up your specimens when you need something done in a rush, and do things in a way that a larger lab company can't do, and capture that business and service that market in a way that people haven't had in a long time. And so we think that we build ourselves a pretty nice base there. And at the same time, like Brett was talking about, our pharmacogenetics business, which is where our love is, that business is going to continue to expand. The cost of that test is dropping, and that takes the bad actors out of the marketplace, because there are bad actors in the healthcare marketplace just like everybody else, and better utilization of the data is going to drive reduced cost of care and improved outcomes. And that's what health systems have to have in today's health world, because they're in a transition. They're in a revenue transition. So as for the longest time, you performed a fee, you got a service fee, the fee for service. That was the model in healthcare for the longest time. And then over the last several years, as we're looking to find ways to reduce the cost of care while still maintaining a certain level of service. Accountable care organizations and what it's all called value-based payment models, so that you get paid for performance instead of getting paid for doing a service. And so right now, about 30% of health system revenues are value-based, and 70% are fee-based. Well, in the next 10 years, that's going to flip, and it's going to go 70-30 the other way. And so companies like ours that can bring real value by the use of data to help personalize, individualize patient treatments programs, we're on the cusp of and the cutting edge of where we can provide benefit on value-based payment models. And so that drives a huge value for us. We're business guys. We want to build it, get it to a certain place, and sell it.
Right.
And we've been talking this value-based stuff. In fact, we started talking value-based stuff like 6 years ago, and they'd look at you like you got a third eye in the middle of your forehead. They didn't know what you're talking about, but some people did, and they listened long enough to say, "Okay, you guys you're onto something, so we'll stay with you."
You saw it coming.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, so the model, so you great partners with the hospital and the systems, and like you said, there's a lot of these local offices, but is the model to grow kind of deep here around the lab, so to speak, or are you structured and set up with the goals to grow wide, regionally, nationally? I'm just curious, kind of what's the big picture?
Well, I think that we've got to grow deep before we can go wide anyway, from a business perspective. And I think that we've got a great opportunity to really stabilize the company from a cash flow perspective, balance sheet perspective. Brett does an amazing job of managing all that stuff, and so we can get deep, and at the same time there are folks that we've been talking with that really want to partner with us on how to deploy what we do into health systems and make a cookie cutter, make a template for how you do this. And then that template is your value. And then you use relationships like maybe Walgreens Health Systems Divisions and other places like that to blow it out and let it get wide for you that way.
So perfect the model, and then we could scale.
Absolutely.
Like it.
Bo, this has all been very fascinating to me. I'm a guy who just barely passed high school chemistry. And I think the reason I did, the instructor did not want to see me again the next year, and he knew I did not want to see him. So getting the grip on what these guys have done, are doing, and are planning to do is absolutely fascinating.
Well, I think something that's very powerful, and you guys have done a good job as I've asked questions, is sometimes this can be complicated, complex things we're talking about, but being able to break it down so the consumer or your partner out there understands exactly what you're doing. I think there's a real art in that.
It's a good thing these guys played golf together that day.
That's right.
Yes, it is.
Well, so tell us a little bit about I met you guys over at the Business Incubator at Brenau University, over at the Featherbone University, right? So tell us about the lab over there. That's really kind of a cool setup over there, and what all's going on there?
So we, Robbie and I actually, with my son Blake, who is our manager of operations over at the lab, the three of us built every square foot of that laboratory, from the walls to the ceiling to the electrical to the benches, the bench tops, pretty much everything in there we built by hand and sweat. And I'm fortunate that Robbie worked a lot of construction jobs when he was younger, because he's got those skills, which I definitely do not. But we started out with about 1,300 square feet of really beautiful lab space. If you ever get a chance.
Cool floor.
Yeah, we've got a great floor. We've got this polished concrete stained blue floor that when you're standing on top of it, it looks like you're walking on the ocean. It's really beautiful. But we started out with a set of what's called PCR, polymerase chain reaction equipment from a nationwide distributor called Thermo Fisher. And we have all the tools and all the automation to run up to 1,000 samples right now of COVID a day, and even more on the pharmacogenetics side. And we recently expanded into another 800 square feet in the business incubator and built out a clean room where we do all of our virus handling and all of our clean room work for the COVID testing. So we're up to right about 2,000 square feet of space. Started with 4 employees. It was Robbie and his wife Penny, myself and Blake, and we now have 20 employees.
Wow.
And Bill, you talk about the stress of managing the finances and the payroll, and every 2 weeks I'm feeling that stress.
It's right there.
It gets more
right
complicated as you add people. Wow.
Yeah, sometimes you're pulling a rabbit out of the hat.
I always say business would be easy if you didn't have to manage all those people, But we're fortunate to be at the incubator at Brunel. It provides us a fairly aggressive fixed overhead cost, and we're definitely not in Class A office or lab space. But what we've built out there is clearly Class A space.
It's pretty nice.
Next time you guys come over, we'd love to show you the lab and give you a tour.
Yeah, I need to. I've walked by the clean room, which I thought was really, really neat. I wanted to know more about that, but I'd love to take a tour of the whole space.
Thank you for the invite. We'll do it.
That's right. Might even go up to hops, right? I don't know if y'all have had, getting off topic, have y'all had his pork rinds?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So we're going to take the tour, take the guys up to hops for pork rinds.
Food is never off topic for
those
you.
pork
Bo.
rinds are starting the show, I'm telling you.
Yeah, they're sizzling the whole time you eat them. That's what's nice. Okay, I digress. So that's exciting, guys. We're going to have one more segment. I want to talk a little more about the business and where we're going, the impact in the community. Very fascinating conversation, Bill.
Very much so.
I'm Bo Henderson, here with the guys from Pro-GeneX. We'll be right back on North Georgia Business Radio X. Community is something we see in common with most of the local businesses we talk to, Bill. They're involved in the community. They're making an impact in the community, whether it's their business involvement, supporting a lot of our great local organizations. And as we're talking to Robbie and Brett from Pro-GeneX today, I know you guys have a lot going on with the community. And we kind of hinted at that a couple times with some of the things with Northeast Georgia and some of the other local organizations. But let's talk a little bit about the role of community in what you guys are doing.
Well, as we've told many folks at the Greater Hall Chamber of Commerce, we've actually reserved a portion of our business to take care of the community specifically. Robbie touched on some of the bigger labs that have failed their rural communities, taking 10 to 12 days to get test results back on a COVID test. We get our tests back to our clients, not only locally, but the ones in California and Illinois, Ohio, in 24 to 36 hours. And we do that because we're not taking on more than we can chew, but we are carving out a good portion of our business for the local Gainesville and North Georgia community.
And that was a commitment that we actually made even to the Brunel folks as we were talking about expanding our offerings to include COVID testing. And we saw what happened with a lot of labs, and there were a bunch of really good labs in Atlanta. And as soon as they got started, the first thing the state would come in and just buy up all their production and then load them up, trying to get them to run 3,000, 4,000 samples a day. And you've got to have some pretty robust systems in place to keep that from breaking. And so we knew what we could handle. We know what we can handle today without breaking our systems. And we know how to scale beyond that. We just double up our systems. But you got it's either chicken or the egg. In this case, it's the egg. And so we've been very focused on working with the local community, working with Northeast Georgia Health Systems. We do work with Longstreet Clinic. We do. The opening of the schools has been a big deal. So Northeast Georgia has actually worked on testing some elementary schools, and we've been instrumental in helping there because we do get things done, within 24 hours. I mean, the truth of the matter is when you've got a virus that its incubation period is between 3 and 14 days, and then the time that people clear it out of their body is anywhere from 3 to 14, but sometimes even longer. A 10-day-old test is meaningless.
Right.
I mean, by that time, it could all be gone, or there's just so
a lot
many
can
things.
happen in 10 days.
A lot can happen, and so providing very fast results has allowed local schools, like, for example, we worked really hard with Riverside Military as they brought their cadets back. And we got a very, very aggressive and robust program in place over there to test the staff before the cadets came back, to test the cadets a couple of times on both sides of that 14-day window. So we knew that we had a pretty good protection layer in there, and then now they're doing some regular testing. And that's the way that you're going to control this thing. That's how they do it in nursing homes when they're successful at doing it. They've got programs to deal with who's coming and going. That's the employees, and who's staying, and they manage that. And so we brought what we knew and what we learned in that to those clients. And we've been good to our commitment. We're totally focused on our local area. It doesn't mean that we're not going to take business from out of the road, but we will not take business that hurts our local market, because our local market, they're our neighbors.
So you brought up something, Robbie. So I was wondering that in these long-term care facilities, in some cases these are more at risk population. So the key is just very regimented to be successful at regimented programs.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's the key.
Fast results and regimented programs, and if you stick to it, we saw some of our clients in Ohio where they had huge infection rates, and they were rigid on their protocols, and over a period of a few weeks, we got it down to nobody. Everybody was safe.
Well, so one of the things is we're kind of talking through the impact in the community. I'm thinking about our listeners today, listening to what you guys do. And one, I wanted to make sure people out there know what you're working on, kind of behind the scenes over there in the lab. But how, as a community, can we encourage, support? What would you say, guys, that listeners could do to support Pro-GeneX? Or is it just raise awareness, tell people about them, tell the places they do business? I'm just trying to figure out how can we...
If they go to the doctor, tell them don't send their results to the LabCorp.
There you go. Okay, there you go. Hey, that's what I was looking for. Raise your hand, Pro-GeneX. So this is one of my favorite parts. We just got a couple minutes. This can be just, Brett, I'll start with you, and then we'll come back to Robbie. We're going to drop the business. We've got a good picture of what you guys do. What are your favorite things to do? This is the 30 seconds about Brett. We know golf and cigars. You got to give me something else.
Not in that order. I've spent the last 21 years in Georgia, but I grew up in Northern California, believe it or not, and was an avid skier, ski racer. I love to ski. I try and go on one or two trips every winter. It's one of my favorite things to do. I live on Lake Lanier down in Cumming, and enjoy that. Wakeboarding and wake surfing and any kind of board sports with my four boys. One of my four boys. Any one of my four boys. Like to be active. I like to, not just play golf, but to do a whole bunch of things. So that's what I like.
That sounds like a good mix, and get you a good change of pace outside of the lab too, and those financials we were talking about.
Yes, sir.
All right, Robbie, what you got?
Well, golf and cigars, but
that's what we got.
But I love playing music.
Okay.
And I like working with my hands. I have a bunch of different hobbies, building guns, do all kinds of fun stuff. And so I'm an oddball. I see something and I say, "Wow, that looks like fun. I think I could probably do it." Next thing you know, I'll go get all the stuff to do it, and my wife is going, "Oh God,
here we go,
something else." And but I enjoy doing things and working around the house. And
what kind of music you play?
All kinds of different stuff.
Okay.
Jazz, rock. I play piano, so all kinds of different things.
We learn something new every day.
Well, these guys, you can't call them nerds. I'm glad we included this segment because they're very versatile. They have.
We had to talk to Robbie at the break about going that way.
Yeah.
No, I'm more apt to call us hillbillies than nerds.
So. I like it, guys. So as we kind of wind this up, anything just. I know it might be a little different with the consumer facing. Anything for the listener, go to the website just to keep abreast of what you're doing, or is it more just, hey, more awareness of what you're doing?
Well, anybody that's interested in the pharmacogenetics, obviously, www.progenex.com, and that's PRO with a dash GENEX. So pro-genex.com. You can go there and you can find out all about pharmacogenetic testing, which is a big deal. And if you've got questions about COVID-19, there's a bunch of information there. And obviously, we can refer them to providers.
Brett, Robbie, thanks so much for sharing what you're doing with Pro-GeneX. Dr. Bill Lanton had a blast on the show. Those of you who know Dr. Bill, you can find out more about what he does at championshipcommunication.com.
Best business website for me is bizcommunicationguy.com. bizcommunicationguy.com.
And I'm Bo Henderson with North Georgia Business Radio X. We'll see you next week, same time, same place.
You've been listening to North Georgia Business Radio X with Bo Henderson. What local business do you know that should be highlighted on our program? Let us know. Just search North Georgia Business Radio X on Facebook or contact Bo at businessradiox.com. Thanks for listening. See you next time. And remember to support our local businesses.